hands, because I like to know where everything stands. Who is a current cannabis consumer and is willing to raise their hand about it? Who, okay, it's a lot. Those of you who are not are totally outnumbered, and we're gonna get you out. So, show of hands, people who are super curious and are hoping to learn more information so that they feel comfortable about this space. Thank you for raising your hand. So I don't think that we could have three more great women actually to show us the ropes really is what you guys are gonna do. Ljubica Kostovic is a Toronto-based cannabis professional and writer. She's passionate about advocacy for both medical and adult uses of cannabis, and she currently heads up a project to build a contemporary Museum of Cannabis in Toronto, which is going to be cool. We should talk to Lauren about that. I'd like to be a part of it. She's also consults on cannabis education, content creation, editorial work, as well as vision and strategy. And she is the education lead for Canadians for fair access to medical marijuana. Pizza on the end. Irie Selkirk, here in the center, is a true marijuana maven. For over 10 years, she has been an insightful cannabis educator, patient advocate, and caregiver, helping bring her own unique and passionate perspective on the benefits of medical cannabis to a wider audience, a wider community. A lifetime of cannabis positive experiences combined with her academic studies and a background in health and wellness, sales and hospitality, created the solid foundation that she continues to fortify within the cannabis landscape with her comprehensive vision and unwavering education to the future of legal cannabis, and the future is now. So thank you for all of your work to get us here. Antuanette Gomez is the Director of Women Grow for Toronto, and she's an international speaker on Tantra, cannabis, and psychedelics. She's a tantric sex and relationship coach as an advocate. Okay, so this is going to be a very, very, very fun panel to kick things off. So the question that I'd like to kick off this panel is, you've all spent a lot of time talking about cannabis with people. What is the most common misconception that you hear that directly or indirectly affects or challenges normalization?
I speak a lot about medical cannabis, but also about how consumers can use it in their daily life. One of the major misconceptions, actually two, is that cannabis either has to be really, really medical, or it has to be really, really recreational. You know, there's kind of an idea that you either need it for a medical condition, or you use it just to have a really nice, fun time. And something that I speak about often is using cannabis as a therapeutic tool, using it as a quality of life, something that's going to improve your quality of life, acting as a panacea. So trying to sort of eliminate the stigma that you need to be either have a symptom or sickness that you need to treat, but actually looking at this like a maintenance tool for your life. So a lot of people look at it on those two sort of extremes. I think especially moving forward to legalization, the recreational piece, I think it's important, especially for women, to sort of address the fact that there is a real balance that we can find with cannabis. It doesn't have to be in one camp or the other.
The question that you asked is what is the biggest misconception that we have about cannabis? The question that I hear all the time is well, I don't want to get high. Well, you don't have to be high to use cannabis. I have really, really bad menstrual pains every single month, to the point where I'm going to business meetings or I'm ready to work, and then all of a sudden I just stop because I get this incredible pain in my lower abdomen. And I'm always traveling for work as well. I travel all the time, so how can I not travel with my cannabis? And that's always been a problem for me. So what I started using, what I used to do in high school, because I used to get these pains in high school too, is I used to smoke. And I would be literally intoxicated, high in school. But now I have board meetings, I can't be high, even though I'm in excruciating pain. So what I do now is I use a cannabis topical, and then some people in the room might know, but it's basically a cannabis-infused cream or a balm. And these topicals have localized effect, which is beautiful. So I can rub it on my lower abdomen, and my lower abdomen will feel no pain. Yet it's not in my brain, so I'm not actually psychologically high.
So how do you think rec legalization, 64% in rec legal states still think there's a stigma, and Canada's really at the cutting edge here to see how it will weave itself into the fabric of its.
I'm going to go on a limb here and say it's going to get worse before it gets better. And that comes in part from some of the works that I've seen coming out of provinces like New Brunswick, where the Medical Association is issuing educational materials which continue to perpetuate the myths that we have lived with for so long. So things like, cannabis causing schizophrenia, which studies show that if you're predisposed to it, it will trigger and you will likely have a worse outcome and worse course, but there is no sort of causal link between the two in that sense. So I think we're going to see, with this engagement of different governments on different levels, we're going to see education programs that are trying to move past prohibition, but likely will still be rooted within that. But then there's all of us in this room and so many people across the country who are going to be fighting to get that actual fact-based education out there. So I think we're going to see a little bit of a mix. I think the stigma will persist, but there will be more questions about it, and it will come down to who has the louder voice.
As soon as people know something, then they stop fearing it, and the reality is we have to start talking about trusting cannabis and what that means for us and how we're taking a little bit more self-care back and how that affects our children positively and how it affects our aging parents and, acting as caregivers and all that kind of good stuff. When we start talking about it within our little microcosm, our little group, then it kind of, baby spider plants out. And, if you have a really good hub of information like this, or Women Grow, or a niche, then you can find the right information and start the conversations that are relevant to you. So I'm hopeful that this conversation keeps going in a positive way, and then in 2 years we see a little bit less stigma, a little bit less judgment, and a lot more people being able to stand up and say, hey, I use cannabis in my life, and that's okay for the following reasons.
So when I started working like 4 or 3 years ago, I remember going to all these different law firms, and I'd be shut down by like all of them being like, you're crazy, or I'm gonna steal your idea, or like, just nothing that I wanted to hear. And now I am working for Women Grow, where we cultivate female entrepreneurs, where we get to mentor all these amazing startups, and now I headhunt for 9 different law firms. So it's like we finally have support from surrounding industries, which is super exciting. So people are now supporting women in cannabis, especially, and that's what I see the most at Women Grow, is that we have all the support we need for all these startups, and it's such an amazing experience to see how most of my businesses in the beginning were kind of shut down, yet I've totally opened up the room for so many more women after me. It's really cool.
Supporting other women along the way. I think that the one thing that we're not saying is one way to help reduce the stigma is to support other women and not judge what they choose to do. We can sometimes not be the best at that, supporting our own community. So I think that not hazing anyone when it comes to their cannabis use or shaming them is a good step in the right direction. Has your cannabis use positively affected, this is my question, positively affected your relationships or not?
I'm a better person in general because of my cannabis use, my cannabis community, and being able to apply it to so many different ways in my life. I sleep better, I eat better, I have more fun playing crafts with my kids. I'm more apt to spend an hour and a half on the floor, playing with Peppa Pig than I am under, coming home from work. It lets you unwind in a safe way. So, it improves the quality of life and the quality of my relationships and that as well. And then, as far as, my intimate relationships, it allows you to, sort of break down some barriers. I'm sure that Antuanette can speak about how great sex is with cannabis. And I'll end with that.
In many ways, cannabis really changed my life. I have fibromyalgia, and I had been suffering in a pretty serious way for about 10 years when I found out about CBD. And I found out about CBD through some volunteer work with some chronic pain patients that I was doing. And, for a long time, I think a lot of chronic pain patients can relate to this. You think that your life is going to be just this one way, and you've kind of decided that there's nothing you can do. And then I found CBD, and I was able to, manage my pain, manage my symptoms, but more than that, my viewpoint changed. And I saw that, at 25, this was a while ago, I didn't have to be resigned to this life of disability. And that really got me to feel like I had control over my health, like I could take ownership So then I got my genetic testing done, did a whole bunch of work, still working on it. But for me, it's been a really significant shift from just, viewing life one way and realizing that it can be totally different, and taking that little window and running with it. Partly why I'm so passionate about the medical advocacy as well. It's one of the things I hope that we can continue to do as legalization rolls out, because I think it's extremely important for patients. And then, I have to agree in terms of using it for that wellness factor, for the recreational factor. I do think you can do both pretty successfully. It's certainly, it's a great alternative to alcohol, which I can't drink anyway because it just makes my condition way worse. And it's a different kind of way to connect with people, and a different way to connect with yourself too. Often I find, the sessions I have when I'm alone, it's really about just being me and being present and letting myself just take some time. And doing that with the people that I engage with when I consume cannabis as well. So that's been really crucial.
It definitely changed my life when I started. I started in high school, or I definitely just wanted to be disconnected from everything. But when I got a little bit older and was into my yoga teacher training, I actually did ganja yoga teacher training. It was life-changing for me about finding the real me, the real honest self. I feel like cannabis is so great about leaving your ego behind. And cannabis was a huge part of my yoga teacher training, and as well as my tantra training. So it kind of just always been following me. And when I learned about it in the tantra training, I learned so much about how it's just so great for you to really connect with another person, soul to soul. And especially in a love-making way. I love that I get to indulge in cannabis with my partner as well, whether it be with while ingesting it, or with a cannabis dinner or smoking. It's just always bringing us closer together, putting us on the same frequency, which is beautiful. It always opens up room for more conversation. We have the deepest and most open and honest conversations when we're using cannabis, because we always feel like we even use cannabis when we are actively knowing we're going to go into a more serious conversation, right? So it's always been there to really help me in every aspect of my life.
What are some practical ways in which someone can start, not for the first time, but maybe start something maybe down for the first time, right? Where do you start with that?
Rule 101 is start small and go slow. And I think that is something you're going to hear, especially when trying different cannabis applications, because you're going to want to make sure that you just go slow. You can just look online, because it's basically what you're looking for cannabis to enhance. Are you looking to cook with it? Are you using it as a topical, or are you trying different smoking methods? And I think that would be the first place to start.
What we found with the survey, right, is that 78% of women are going online and they don't have a go-to resource they just have absolutely no, 25% think that they do. And I think there are some pretty good resources out there. Everyone's got a different way that they connect with information, and I think there's something out there for everybody. The Cannabis is a great outlet. It started out of Denver. What are some of your favorite places to get more information on cannabis?
Everything I Google these days, it says, and cannabis, basically. So I want to know what someone's doing, and cannabis. Start a really simple search. Look for Facebook groups, look for social media groups. Follow some people on Instagram. Follow who Vanderpop's following, and then you have to do a little bit of footwork right now. You have to find what is going to speak to you in the industry, and as far as getting involved and getting started, look at something in another industry and see if this is already happening in cannabis, because this is a full spectrum thing. It's going to go, everywhere from, accessories to lifestyle to, actual medicine itself. So find, your niche and get involved in it, and sort of identify different allies that you can work with, people that have similar vision, and just show up. That's basically what I started doing a while ago, and it's working out.
I just wanted to add to that, for news specifically, there's this great app called Want Cannabis, and they kind of scrape all the different information that's coming out, update in real time. Also, Google Alerts. If there's specific topics you're interested in, that's a really good way to go.
Bye.